just crashed in the mud and then had to like rip one off, right?
Yeah, but he decided like no one does a tear off glove, but Asa being Asa was like, this will be quicker, and he just pulls it off. You can kind of see it in some of the footage. He's got a clip on his, or he did have a clip on his Instagram.
So sick.
Yeah, just like
I don't know. I went for a ride this weekend in like the pissing rain, and even not muddy, wet grips still suck. Like it's not ideal. And
yeah,
I forgot gloves, so kind of same boat. But
yeah, it was very wet.
Yeah.
Well, if you're just tuning in, you've been listening to us chat about the exciting world of gloves. Yes, this is the
Welcome back
podcast.
To Glovecast.
Glovecast. I'm Mike Asmer. We got Dario DeGiulio here. Just kind of a smaller crew, but we got a lot to talk about. It's a very busy weekend. Got some World Cup racing, exciting World Cup racing.
Super sick. Yeah.
So good to have it back. Enduro and downhill double header, which kind of unfortunate for the enduro people. I feel like they get a little bit overshadowed by the downhill. There's a little bit more excitement around the downhill. And they were back to a one-day enduro race, so it just felt like they kind of crammed it in there. But it was a good race too.
Yeah, it was. I think there's an argument to be made that like there's more attention on an enduro if it's near a downhill and like both in time and distance. But yeah, there was just so much more coverage of the DH this weekend. It was pretty tough to even see stuff from the enduro. Like we had stuff on the website, but beyond that, like there wasn't as much coverage.
Yeah.
But boy, was it gnarly. It looked so cool.
I mean, for both races have snow. Yeah. Like there's not too many races that happen where there's snow at the start, especially, I mean, this time of year, typically snow isn't as much of a threat. You know, we think of like maybe Mount St. Anne, it could be a threat of snow, or some of the, need some random storms maybe in the summertime way up high. But this was a venue I didn't expect snow to be at. No.
I mean, it is a ski resort, but like it's late season. I was there last year and it was the same exact week and it was hot. Like it did rain, but it was hot rain. I remember being in a t-shirt for most of the week, even through the rainstorms, and it was lovely. And so I was kind of, in a way, I was like happy to not have gone just because it looked so foul, but I was bummed to not see it because it was a sick race on both fronts.
Yeah, and I was glad. It seemed like the mud was even for everybody. You know, it's always hard to watch those races where someone goes down and the track is dry and it gets muddier and muddier, and it just, you know, knowing the last riders to go are kind of suffering. But this one seemed pretty nasty conditions throughout the whole thing. Like even in the finals, it was snowing, but everybody kind of had the snow. It wasn't the case of like one rider getting screwed over because of the weather conditions.
True. Like the only one who might have had like a slightly trickier time was, I think Dom Platt was the first to drop for the elite men's final, and there had been like fresh snow fallen, and so he was the first to cut into that. But you know, just first tracks.
Yeah. And we used to talk about, I mean, Dom Platt, privateer, I believe, made it.
Yep. He's on Wynn's project. Yeah.
And part of that, the LC, the last chance qualifier thing. So now, I mean, last year we had the semifinals that seemed ridiculous, but this year riders have one chance to make the finals, and if they don't make that one, they get one more chance, and then that's it. And there's no protected riders. So yeah, you're seeing like big names. There's like 10 people or so in the last chance qualifiers.
11 people who had won a World Cup were in the last chance qualifier.
Yeah,
which is,
makes it exciting.
And that's 10 spots. So it's like you had more World Cup winners than spots available, and it was so heated. It was sick.
You know, when like Omri and Jackson are trying to battle out for qualifying, and they have to go the second run. Like it's intense.
Yeah, for how like uninteresting the semifinal was, the LCQ is like an actually enhanced product if that's their goal. The only downside is they didn't show all the runs in the Q2, so I watched the Q2 replay, and you missed like Jackson's and you missed like the Jewetts. So I think there were some like heaters that were not put into the cast, but they'll probably smooth that out in time. Yeah,
it's gonna be kind of tricky too, because even if you watch the full, like the live coverage, the first people in the live coverage, typically in the past, you know, it goes by your ranking. So the first people to go would be the slower riders, but now with the last chance qualifier, the first people to go are like the first people that qualified from the last chance qualifiers. You know what I mean? So basically you get the fast riders spread throughout the field, which is great, but it means that those first 10 riders, you only see part of their run, and it could be someone like Omri or
and that's Jackson. Why we had such long seats on the hot box on the you know, it was like a hot seat, hot box. It's kind of a box now, but men's and women's field were like both just kind of camped on the chair for an hour or so.
And
gnarly considering the weather.
I know. If everyone, if you haven't seen Winn TV's after race video, yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, Wynn's just catching up with Anna Newkirk, and she's just saying she's sitting there for so long, they're all just shivering on the hot seat because it was not a hot seat. Just kind of a brutal way to finish. But yeah, I mean, just such good racing, and very glad it's back again.
Yeah.
We should talk a little bit about the tech though, because there was a lot of stuff. I mean, anytime there's a wet weather race, it's all about people just trying to optimize for the setup. Like it was kind of neat this year. They showed the tire choice of the riders on the little screen overlay. It's kind of like, we don't want to use the mentioned Formula One, but it is like Formula One where it says what tire they're on, what tire compound. So it's kind of
fair. The only downside is it just said mud for everybody. Yeah, exactly. There wasn't really any specificity. No, it's totally. Like the only one I noticed who wasn't running mud tires was Ocean Callahan. He was running like Cryptotol front and rear, front and rear.
Yeah.
But he's also like stellar in the wet.
Yeah,
so
his run was great. Yeah, I thought he had it, but it was cool to see. I mean, he's kind of like a Ronan Dunn figure where he can throw it all away really quick if he just hits a little too much gas. He's
been smooth though. Like
but he's
I don't know.
There.
He doesn't seem. I think one of the commentators mentioned that he looked like a little mini Loic Bruni, and that kind of stuck with me. He does. He's like super smooth, like taking smart lines and just like carrying speed everywhere. It's not all about like going balls out in one section.
Yeah, like it looked like it's almost like, I mean, he is maturing. He's not that old, but he's kind of has that, like he's figured out how to keep that speed, and that's how people start winning. Like Ronan, even in his interviews, Ronan was saying next race he's going like checkers or wreckers. And I was like, I don't know, Ronan, like that might not be the key. But I'm talking from the sidelines. They all know what they're doing, but
for sure.
But yeah, it was cool to see Ocean up there.
It was, yeah, and it was. I don't know. It was interesting to see who didn't make it into the finals. Even like. I think there were some big names that got left behind. And I do wonder, like, it'll be interesting to see how the season plays out long term in terms of like what that does for contracts and stuff like that. Like, it does change the way that you have to approach a race. And so,
yeah. And I think I'm sure some of those top riders were almost a little bit complacent going into the qualifying, just thinking like, oh, I'll toss a good qualifying round down and not have to worry about last chance qualifiers. And then when that happened, they're like, oh. And so I think this next round, we're going to see them going real hard in their qualifying run, just so they don't have to deal with doing the two runs.
Well, listening to the after race interviews, like so many of the people who qualified in Q1 were like, thank God I didn't have to do Q2. I think it was just really stressful for people.
Yeah.
But then again, like you saw some people in Q2s like not really pushing that hard. I think maybe treating it as more of a semifinal or just like a not full out run. But if it's not full out, then you're not in the finals.
No,
that's kind of the end of it. So.
It's a great format change. So that's cool. And and they did have the footage available for free of the last chance qualifier, like right after it finished, which was kind of like a surprise. So people were, when the results came up, everyone's complaining like, "Where's the footage? Oh, I hate this. This is the worst." But then all of a sudden, oh look, here's the footage. You can watch it for free. So obviously, there's still plenty of things we could complain about, but I'd say overall it was pretty easy to access the racing and you could watch it. And
they did a pretty good job of showing. They didn't show full runs for the finals, but like, pretty good coverage of the hill.
I will say I don't want to be I guess we have the platform, so I'm going to complain a little bit about the commentary. Like I would not want to be a World Cup commentator. I know that's not my strength, and I wouldn't be that good at it. I'm pretty like even, but I think we just need someone with energy in there.
Well, I think Josh Carlson is like energetic.
Yeah, but like if you watch, I'm going to use it. I'll limit my mention of Formula One to one more time after this. But if you watch a Formula One race, like even if you watch Formula One qualifying, it's a car going around in a circle, and they can make that seem exciting.
I've literally never watched Formula One, so I will watch.
You should watch it. I'll just send you just watch the highlights. I'll send you. And the guy is very excited about it, and he's just like, and then but then you watch this, and they're just like talking kind of calmly, and like Nico is great. He's knowledgeable, but he didn't talk very much, and he's pretty quiet. So it's kind of like you just need someone to kind of rile things up or make the excitement happen, because it's exciting on screen, but they're almost just watching. Like it doesn't add a lot. So
I think it's so hard because it's like you have a ton of people that you have to keep in your head in terms of like stats and things and points of interest, and then it is a long show, so like keeping the energy up can be challenging. I think I like their format that they've introduced of like having a racer on for any given race. So like having Nico in for this one was sick. I liked his commentary. I think like it's not necessarily the racer's job to bring the energy up. It is more on the like full-time commentator. But,
exactly. So this is and like Rick is getting better, but I just do feel like there's room for improvement. I don't want to be too hard on him. I know it's a really hard job and like respect what they're doing, but I feel like there's room for just like get people stoked, and I don't know, it's a little bit.
No, I feel it. Yeah. I think we'll see how that.
It's a lot of talking too. Like I don't blame them for kind of losing the energy. By the time they finish the finals broadcast, it's kind of like they've been talking for hours and hours. So
yeah, dude.
Maybe just need to like take some Red Bull or whatever the strongest energy drink is out there and just get jacked up. And go into it a little more excitement. But
there's a way.
This is coming from someone who doesn't have much excitement as he talks. So I realize that this is not. I'm not volunteering to do that.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. It's like because we do a lot of talking as well. I can like think through the process of it. And you're like, damn, that is
hard.
That's a feat. And I remember last year at Rampage, like Regatkin talked for I think 7 hours straight because they had the like wind delay, and he was still live broadcasting the entire time through that.
Yeah,
that dude has a skill. Like, there are people out there who have just like the ability to keep riffing endlessly, but doing that while also providing like interesting points about what's happening on the course is pretty tough. Like, that's a tricky thing.
So much to keep in your head too. I mean, all those racers, and there's new racers coming up. So even just trying to find all the little stats and stuff. They have stats and they can read them, but some of them aren't, not quite relevant. Or I was kind of entertained. We have a local rider, Tilly Melton from Bellingham, is up there. Junior race, she ended up 4th place, which is great. So it's so cool to see young riders up there going fast. But as they were talking about her recent race results, they said she had done well in the Galbraith Gravity.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
which is like a really local race. It's kind of like the smallest race you could possibly have. I don't know what they're referring to, but that's like her stat sheet said that. So it was kind of cute. Like,
I mean, they're probably just they're pulling stuff from Roots and Rain. I don't even think the World Cups show up on there, but like,
no.
I don't know how that would have come up.
I don't even know. Yeah, it could have.
One of the men, they were like, he played like in high school for this football club, and that football club is playing their last match today. So shouts out to like Derbyshire football club or whatever. So I was like, that was adorable. There were some like really deep cuts in there.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But I mean, speaking of the juniors, I watched some of the junior coverage, and the riding level of the juniors is so amazing for men and women. You watch and you're like, oh, they're on it. Like, it used to be a pretty big gap. You're like, oh, that's gonna be cool. Like, a couple years they're gonna be able to compete elite. Now you watch like, oh, they're just so fast and solid now. Like, their riding level is so much higher.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I think, I don't know, like, I'm pretty excited for the season. I get the sense that the riders are as well. Like, there's been apprehension and like plenty of negativity as per usual, but this year seems like things are smoothing out in a way that people are excited. And
there's enough rounds.
I think the same goes with the Enduro too. Like, it was a 1-day race, and I think that the 2-day format was a bit more popular with the racers, but like, considering the weather and shit, I don't think that was like,
and they're probably tired,
frothing for another day of that.
No, and they're tired from the last weekend too, so it's probably good. And then like, now they've got a gap, and then
no doubt
get back into racing, and now we have World Cup racing coming up this weekend. We've also got Crankworks. Karen's
XC in Lenzerheide this weekend, right?
XC, it's Czech, the Novo Mesto.
Oh no, yeah, that's right. Okay,
so that would be good. So much racing to keep track of.
Yeah, it's a lot. We should talk about one other tech thing I wanted to chat on with DH was the use of like lockout stuff, flight attendant in particular.
That thing was goofy. I'm going to say it looks so dumb. Like, they have this big, for people that didn't watch, or maybe if you watched and didn't know what it was, the riders that are on SRAM RockShox equipment, they have basically looks like
it's like a Fisher Price
it's kind of like a whack-a-mole, exactly. Like, your top cap is really big and it lights up either red or green, and what that's indicating is if your suspension is locked out or open. So green open, red locked out, and it was because riders were forgetting which mode they were in, apparently, and so this way they could have a quick visual indicator, like if I'm locked out or not. But then when you watch the footage, you can see it reflecting in their goggles. So you just see green light or red light. And it seemed, for me, I feel like it'd be so distracting. But I
mean, like in the steep sections, like it was like piercingly bright.
Yeah,
like,
especially how dark it was. It's like a headlight. Like, they have like a red or green headlight on.
And even then, both Amory and Loris said they didn't know what mode they were in at various points on track. And Loris said he rode the steep woods at the end with it locked out because he didn't know what mode he was in and ended up being locked. And like, sure, it's like so muddy and shitty, it almost doesn't matter, but like, obviously it matters. And looking at like results, it's hard to say that it would make a tremendous difference for
I mean,
results.
This was a race where there was flat spots though, because like Loris was saying he thought it helped him in the flatter spots, like that flat kind of off camera before the bridge. He said he was locking it out there, and I could see that making a difference. Like, I mean, like
Bruni has something similar on his bike. Amory got third. I don't think Richie runs any sort of lockout on his, and nor does Ocean, because Ocean's on Fox as well, right?
Yeah, I don't think they did for this race. I have to look. I didn't really see, but I didn't notice it on Richie's. I could be wrong, but I don't think he was running like any sort of flight attendant or live valves type stuff.
Fox I don't know.
Like, it exists, and they're all experimenting with it. I think Suntour's had some stuff too, and I think there are courses where it could help. But it is, yeah, it's a matter of, I mean, I get the light too, as goofy as it looks. There's so much going through their brains, and just kind of a quick indicator doesn't make sense. It just looked kind of silly, but
it's funny. Yeah. Well, I think the reason it was funny to me is just that it didn't result in them knowing what was going on.
Yeah, because like you're focusing, you're looking ahead, you push it,
and it's like the visibility is so bad anyway. It's like
and it's so quick to activate. You know, I feel like the old style lockouts and things, if you had a twist or a lever, like it takes a few times, you're probably thinking like, okay, I'm locking it out, but now you can just beep and it's locked or unlocked. So it's so fast you probably forget. You know, just like it's instant.
Yeah. Also, like I do wonder how they have it mapped, because like the way that Loic has his, it's 3 buttons, which may seem overcomplicated, but like the beauty of that is you can just spam the open button whenever you're curious or like hoping that it's open.
Yeah.
Versus one that's like an on-off. Yeah. You're like not sure where you are because it's just binary. So I think having like a mapped array actually makes more sense.
Yeah. Like it almost might make sense to have a button on each, like open on the left, locked on the right, and then you just like boop, boop.
Yeah, you don't need a dropper and you're like hardly shifting.
Yeah.
This was a weird race in that sense, just because last year it was firmer. There was definitely a case to be made for the lockouts because there was some traversing sections where people were pedaling really hard. But this year it was just like people were slogging through the mud.
Yeah, it was brutal. Yeah, I'm just getting stuck in holes. Like Hattie Harman's crash was just like her front end got sucked into a hole. Left turn, and then it was just in the water and done. But
and then she chased a UCI official down the course.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
50 feet, and then they didn't give her a rerun, which is such bullshit.
Stupid. Yeah, that she should have got a rerun. Like I don't care what the excuses are. Like if your run gets blocked by things outside your control, you should get a rerun.
I'm sure their logic was like, well, she'd already crashed. Like that's the case, but it's like, no, I mean, you slowed her down another 10, 20 seconds by having some dude run in front of her.
I bet that person's so embarrassed, like whoever that is.
For sure, and I feel bad for that.
Yeah, like, but still, they should get a rerun. It's not like...
Yeah, also, like, the Poland course has a huge B zone. Like, there's no excuse for being in the way. Like, it's a very easy one to stay out of the way on. I remember hearing her interview on it. She was like, it's neither here nor there for her in terms of the day. Like clearly she'd already kind of thrown her run, but for the team, like that matters a lot. You know, Reese didn't even qualify. So like for them to have any points matters a decent bit. But.
Yeah. Speaking of teams, we should talk about FMD Racing, Orbea, a new bike and podium, and Martin May's 8th place, I believe.
Well, he got, I think, 8 or 9. And Tawny taking the win on a brand new bike is pretty sick. Like
10th place. Sorry, I was wrong. Martin May's 10th place.
Martin in 10th, Tawny in the win.
Yeah.
That's rad. And like, you know, mysterious, interesting bike, but pretty cool stuff. I think that's like, I don't know, it's either a new bike excels you to the front or is the thing that causes you to like spend half a season puzzling. And it seems like they've done their work leading up to this and they're kind of hitting the ground running.
Oh wait, sorry. I need to correct myself again. Martin Mays was in 9th place. He's 10th place in the overall somehow, I guess because of qualifying points. That's why. Yeah. So okay. He's in 9th. I knew he was somewhere in there. But he was one of the 2 Enduro people. Yeah, I mean Richie Rude in 4th also, which is cool. But back to the Orbea bike.
Richie was my fucking clincher for the fantasy league.
I know you did well in fantasy.
I did well. I'm stoked. I didn't really try last year, and so I actually gave it some thought this time. But you know, Brian's in last place, so at least
that's all that matters.
To hold over him.
Yeah.
Ed beat me by 1 point. Yeah, which that is what you'd expect. He's the wizard.
And time to start calculating for the Ludenville race. It's coming up. There's gonna be some changes for people that are listening. They haven't been announced by now. They will be a little bit. Just going to tweak the rider prices, so we'll make it nice and good. It's just kind of because the last chance qualifier just makes it tricky to get the values fair, I guess. So there should be some adjustments. Ed's working on it. He's crunching the numbers, but keep playing. It's gonna be really good.
Yeah, but it's hard. I mean, it's so like, you know, like Jackson almost didn't qualify, and that was everyone's top pick. Like I didn't have him on my list, but like you look through most of the teams,
he seemed
like a lot of people had him.
Yeah, but he ended up being sick. He didn't seem like he tried that hard. I'm sure he tried.
He was sick. Hard, he said in one of the interviews that he was not feeling well. So
he kept calling out being he's too light to go fast. I'm like, Jackson, I've seen you go fast. Like, I don't know. Like you're a strong little guy. You can make it work. Like
it's also not the kind of course where like being heavy is carrying speed across those. It's like you just pedal and pump. Mud. It's like exactly. It's like super sticky out there. It did not look like the heavy guys were pulling away necessarily. No. But
yeah, but I was gonna say back to the Orbea that we were talking about. That's definitely the first downhill bike that can take a water bottle that's won a World Cup.
True, that's a good point.
First bike with in-frame storage to take a World Cup win. It's a how's the saying go? Win on Sunday, sell on Monday. So they
exactly
one on Sunday, sell on Thursday or something. So the bike is coming out. Kind of a combo deal. But first bike with in-frame storage to win a World Cup.
Sick.
Yeah.
You can keep some little doodads in the down tube too.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of like it. I mean, there's so much room in some of these bikes for a little,
I don't see why not.
Thing. It doesn't it's weight's not a thing really. You can.
Yeah. I know that Santa Cruz considered a swap box or like a glove box on their D10, but I think for fair reasons they omitted that.
Totally. I mean, it's kind of funny. Like I'm obviously not pushing super hard. Like I push hard for them on trail bikes, but downhill bikes I don't really care. But it is kind of a funny little.
It's like I would maybe if it was big enough, I'd put a shock pump in my bike.
Yeah,
if I could store it safely for like park riding. But
and like the water thing's fine. But like there's always, I mean, depends on which bike park you're at. But most bike parks have water at the base. It's not like you're out for epic like hours long downhill. But
true, hours long downhill,
which would be sweet. If there's a place that exists with a chairlift that I can go downhill for hours at a time, that'd be cool. But
that would be cool. Yeah, damn, I don't know that there are that many.
Maybe if they put maybe a chairlift somewhere in like Bolivia,
or if there were, it's like a very, very mellow run for many hours.
Just like cruising.
I think the one other thing we should touch on with the World Cup before we move on is the Amaury debacle.
Oh yeah, there's that. That was all mud guards. We need to talk about mud guards.
Oh, too, true.
But we can talk about Amaury too. Yeah, that was definitely like some controversy because people that, again, if you didn't watch the race, hopefully by now you have. It's been days. You've had time. He went in Q2 qualifying or LCQ. Yeah.
I don't really like the Q2 nomenclature. I understand that it's like it is the second qualifier, but like calling it the last chance qualifier, I think better
makes more sense.
Paints the picture.
Yeah. So in the last chance qualifier, Amaury's coming down and there's a jump and he goes around the jump and he's the outside of one of the course markers. And then on the left of him, there's a big kind of timing inflatable pillar basically. So it looks like, depending on what you think, he either went outside the course or he was on the B line. And that was the cause of controversy. Apparently Trek protested because they thought he went outside the course, but he'd been doing that line in practice. And I think the juniors were using that line in their race runs too. In my mind, it is a B line. Like if you look at the helmet cam footage from up higher on the course, the up high, there's bigger jumps and there's B lines around them that are kind of marked just like that. But it does. It's
kind of weird because it's one of the few jumps on the course that you could just squash and catch like a case pad backside.
Yeah.
And obviously that's slower because you're getting like a bigger compression instead of just pumping something. But I mean, the only valid point I heard brought up was from Danny Hart. He was saying that like if it was traditional taping, he would have just been wrapped up in tape. And
well, if it's traditional taping, I doubt the tape would have been right there.
Like,
I think it'd be on the left. So that's the thing.
Tape a taper onto the lip of a jump. Like that's pretty odd.
Because usually there would be B lines for, because of weather and things. Most jumps on
not a single person cleared that jump in finals. Like
no,
it was like maybe some people tagging a case, but barely.
I think he was in the right, but it does illustrate that those course marker pylon things are pretty strange and they lead to some.
Yeah, I generally like them. I think a lot of the racers do. I mean, they're way safer than like bamboo poles, and they're also like a little less in the way in terms of watching the race. But imperfect.
Yeah, I must just send you some different colors. Like you could have, if we go to again back to bike parks, the bike parks have little flags for the lips of jumps. So just like flag the jumps and then make the actual course markers the side. Or if you have a B line, should maybe a different. So things for them to work on, but I'm sure they have. That's why they have. There should be some sort of UCI technical delegate whose job it is to kind of sort that stuff out. So I'm sure it'll be addressed and hopefully a little bit more clear for future races. But that was a small bit of controversy.
Yeah, it didn't come up in any of the coverage, but one, I don't know, personal annoyance that I saw was there was a section in the middle of the course. There's a choke between two trees, and people were like slapping the choke, popping out onto a big riser. And it was right where a huge Oakley sign was.
They're hitting the Oakley thing a bit.
Like 5 of the dudes smoked the Oakley sign. Thibaut Deprella almost crashed because of it. Like a number of people had like run-ins with this thing. And I'm like, that spot, like I've walked through that set of trees before. It's not much more than bar width.
Yeah.
And having a sign in the way of the exit makes no fucking sense. It's like,
I know. I wonder if it moved to the wind or something, like if they had it placed better. But it did seem like they should have fixed it after that. Like once one person hits it, just take that thing down. And,
I know. There were a few things like that where there's so many people like on the hill who work for the organization and are kind of keeping an eye on things. Like for stuff like that to go unnoticed is a bit dumb, especially because it's in the live broadcast. You could just make a call and say like, hey, go move the Oakley sign. It's going to kill somebody.
Yeah. Is that where Lockie McNabb went flying off?
And he did like a
spitting off. I don't know. I wish I could have seen from above. He just got like huckabucked and then just in the air off course and just stands up like, I just dropped 15 feet out of the air. That didn't work.
He said he was fine and just like he like tagged a rock in the corner and it just like spit him off the berm and that was that. But yeah, I will say like I think because it was so wet and slow, like it was a safer seeming race. Like not too many scary crashes, but
yeah, it's kind of better almost when the speeds are a little slower because you get those super high speed ones.
And this is a fast track too. Like
if it was dry, it'd be so fast.
Yeah. I remember practice day last year before it started raining. People were overcooking so many of the corners just because you can carry more speed than you'd expect. And then suddenly you're like slowing down for a traverse. But yeah, I don't know. I'm stoked. It's so sick to have downhill back.
There's so much downhill race talk. Hopefully everyone's liking it because it was just an exciting race. And even though it's a few days after the fact, it was just still very good. But before we move on, the mud thing, the fenders was another point of just like tech related. Where some racers were struggling so much with vision. They're pulling tear-offs and roll-offs and they couldn't see. And then you look at the fender they're running and they're running a little stubby fender.
Dumb as shit.
Like who messed that up? Like Valley Hall was running the boxer fender, which is too short, I would say, for a mud race. Like it's good for summertime, but it's a pretty stubby thing. And, maybe they thought she'd be fine with her roll-off system, but I'd say that was the wrong call. Like
to be fair, Tawny was just running a marsh guard, but I think she had two of them. She had like a front and a back. Yeah,
it's a little more coverage. And a lot of people had like extended visors, which helps a lot too, because then the water sprays up and kind of keeps it from getting your face. But yeah, I think like Finn looked like he was struggling with his vision. Like he was pulling a lot of roll-offs or tear-offs. And then, but yeah, I remember there was that race last year when Omri did really well and he had the big dog fender, like the big mud hugger, or whichever brand he's using. I was like, oh yeah, that's smart. So it's a trade-off too, because I mean, I think some people with the mud gets really gloppy. They're afraid of it clogging up in the fender. So it's kind of like a roll of the dice. You just have to get the right setup. But
if you're little things, most people are running like Dirty Dans or Wet Screams, like full on mud tires, and those are going to clear fine. So it's like, trust your tire, trust your fender. Hopefully the things work out. But
yeah, exactly. It's definitely one of those things, but it could be your race. Like somebody put the wrong fender on your bike and you might lose because of it, which is kind of crazy. It's a piece of plastic. And then
it is crazy. Like what the mud forces out in the wash, like things just get tortured. Everyone was talking about how bad their brakes were. Like people on SRAM, Shimano, like across the board. I heard racers mention that they were like pulling to the bar and like having weird issues with
you just have water and mud on your rotors and
clods of mud piling into your brakes. No matter, even if you're running one of those like goofy disc covers, it's going to happen.
Yeah, and your system's getting super hot, and then you're just dousing it in water, and the whole thing is just a lot of it's tricky.
It's cool, but it's sick to see the bikes push like that. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. Nice. Well, let's move on from World Cup racing to talk about the bikes that we've been riding. A little bit of a show and tell. Start with the Propane.
Yeah, Spindrift review went up on Monday, and a pretty interesting bike. I think one of the more paradoxical bikes I've ridden recently. It's 180 mil travel front and rear. On paper, the Geo is like sprawled out and serious, but it rides much more like a long-legged trail bike than it does like an enduro or downhill bike. I think for a lot of people that is actually like a positive. It has a liveliness and it pedals really nicely. That leads to it being like a much more usable bike than a typical 180 would be. But then again, if you're expecting it to be this like just monster truck experience, it's definitely not that.
I reviewed the last one. It doesn't sound like, I didn't ride this one that you were on, but I rode the last version and it sounds really similar. I'm almost identical.
Vanishingly different. The head angle is slacker on the new one.
Yeah.
And then like the details of the frame are better, but kinematic and like rear center and all that are the same.
Yeah, so. Still the same. I still wish they would drop the seat tube length a little bit just so people could run longer travel dropper posts. Because it's like it's a 180 mil bike. You want that dropper slammed out of the way. And they could do it with their new suspension layout. They could. They have to do a little bit of, I mean, I'm no engineer here, but I think you could straighten the seat tube a little bit and move some things around. But
I agree. I think I rode both the XL and the large. And though parts of the XL fit me better, I could not run a long enough dropper, nor could I really get the seat out. Like the standover on the bike as is quite tall. And I think that is kind of due to the packaging of the
shock.
Suspension.
Like you can't, because otherwise you have to shrink the shock size and then your stroke length and everything. They're just running out of room to put all that the way.
It's like a very substantial dual link layout with a vertical shock in there. And so packaging that is tough in the space of the frame. So I get that. But I opted to ride the large long term because of that standover issue. So, it was fine in that sense. But yeah, definitely not the most like capable bike I've ridden, but quite fun. I liked it. And then
the weight, like dude,
Mr. Weight
like
doesn't matter, but 35 pounds.
Yeah, with a coil shock, 34 pounds with a coil shock, and that's
and by no means the lightest build. Like they have, they're a la carte builders, like worth playing with, even if you're not going to buy the bike just because it's cool.
Yeah,
but you could probably get that bike down into like the 33 pound range if you really wanted to. It's sick. I was impressed. Like as a engineering project and just, from like a finished product perspective, it's a really clean bike. And easy to own, like no issues to report there.
Yeah, totally. I wonder, I think there's rumors that they're having an update of the Hugine, the trail bike. I think
Tyee is the enduro bike. That by the time this comes out, it'll be out. Comes out the 22nd. Yeah. So updates to their enduro bike. That looks pretty good. I don't know if someone's getting that in for review, but it seems worth pursuing.
Yeah, no more through headset cable routing, or at least you have the option now, I think.
Yep, that's how they phrase it. Is it's your choice, and God willing, everyone chooses the right
exactly.
one.
Choose the right,
not
choose the right
headset.
Thing. Yeah.
Also, because they've like got good cable routing now. It's not rattly. It's tube and tube. So yeah, I think Propane's doing a good job. I'm pretty excited by the stuff they've been making. Part of me wonders, like, they don't really have like a short travel bike in their lineup, but it would be interesting to see what they could do with, like, clearly their engineering team is, talented.
So it could be tricky. I think that, it almost might be, they'd almost have to deviate and go to some sort of like flex stay suspension layout. Just maybe they can figure it out, but it'd be pretty tricky to package just the way that they haven't worked themselves into a corner, but that layout does make it a little bit trickier. Like, if they go with that, but they could always change and make something a little different. But so that's the Hugine, or that's not the Hugine, that's the Spindrift. I think huge in my mind, huge means long travel. I'm like huge, but no, the Hugine's the enduro bike. Spindrift is the big dog. So that's a good bike for kind of that rider that wants all the travel but still wants to pedal.
Jumps really nicely too. Like it's got pop, and I feel like a lot of times long travel bikes, you kind of need speed for them to jump well, but I would say the Propane was more like adaptable in that sense. Like I rode it for a few days in the bike park last summer, the XL, and it was like a ton of fun on Dirt Merchant and stuff like that. So definitely a good do it all in that sense.
Did you try it with any sort of like O-chain or E13 hub or anything, just to kind of help?
I tried it briefly with the O-chain, and it did help a bit. I didn't really speak to it in the review just because I feel like the O-chain is too big a change. Like,
we can't be sticking O-chains on every bike.
Yeah, if you put it on every bike, it makes every bike different. So it does, it's the anti-squat delete button. So it does that effectively on the Propane. I think the Spindrift is probably a better candidate for something like the Sidekick, just because it's got longer travel and like that bigger deadband probably makes a bigger difference. So I think people who want that bike to feel more capable would benefit from that for sure. Yeah. It's just, it will climb worse, but it will descend better for it.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. What you got?
I don't know. I don't have a ton for show and tell this week. I feel like I'm kind of in between. There's lots of little things coming out soon that I can talk about.
Yeah.
I think what I've been on lately. I did get the Wolf Tooth sent me their, you know what I can talk about are the One Up Wave pedals.
Oh, you have some?
I got some. Yeah. I've got I've requested a bunch of pedals recently because all these new pedals came out, and I was like, I'll just toss flat pedals on. It's bike park season and get some miles in. And so I've rode the wave pedals. I got 2 days of riding in on them. They're interesting. Like, they're sticky. They do work well. Like, I just use them with 510 shoes. They do feel, it's almost like they've still made a convex pedal, but different. The way that so the people that, again, if you been following from the latest in flat pedal technology, there's been some things. So what One Up did is they made their pedals kind of convex in the front, and then there's the axle, and then it tips backwards more. So kind of a wave shape. The intention is
like
that
concave for the ball of your foot, convex for the back of your foot.
Yeah,
right?
kind of like, it's almost just like concave, and then it goes up and then it tips down. So the idea is that it encourages a heels down riding position, which I would call bullshit on that, because if I get what they're trying to say, but when you ride heels down, your whole foot tips. You don't just tip your heel and the front of your foot doesn't
your
stay.
foot doesn't just bend in half.
Yeah, you're not going like, a bound foot. So they do feel comfy. Compared to like a T-Mac or something like that, or even the Race Face Vaults, they don't quite have that full sit in the middle concave feel, because those pedals are true concaves. They just have a kind of a dish shape that you're sitting into. But this one, it was cool how my foot didn't ever slip. It just kind of, you don't think about it, at least on the trails I rode some rowdy stuff. And I was on an e-bike when I tested them, which I normally clip in on the e-bike just because it feels like I get bounced around more. But I was like, well, this will be a good test. And so they work. Like, they're plenty grippy.
Yeah.
I'm not totally convinced by the shape. I need more time on it. But I think that for me, I kind of like, but in general, I do like a concave pedal. It just feels right. And this one feels a little different. You don't notice it a ton. Like, it doesn't feel like, I never really got along with the old One Up convex pedals. Like, those ones just never clicked with me. So this one, I'd say definitely better than those, and I could run it and not be too concerned. But yeah, there'll be more. Stay tuned in the next couple months. I'll have a flat pedal shootout or something coming up. Where I kind of
same on my front, actually. I've got like
we can combine forces. Ones. I think.
Yeah.
You have some. You have some with some rare earth metals and things.
Oh yeah. So I've been riding the MagPed. Magnetic pedals, for lack of a product name. I think they're called the Enduro pedal. They are odd, I think I'll have more thoughts than that in due time, but I've ridden them. I rode them quite a bit when I got them, then took them off because I was getting scared, and now I'm back to getting scared. It's kind of like,
what's the scary part? Is it hard to unclip, or does it feel so different?
Yeah, so like, it feels like you're on a flat pedal, and the beauty of a flat pedal is you can just dab a foot whenever, reposition if you're like getting rattled around on something. But with these, like, the magnet is strong enough that your repositioning is a little tricky. Like, you kind of have to like force your foot to the side or fully pick up and replace. So it can be kind of hard to change your foot position. And then if you do need to dab a foot, sometimes you're just like fully stuck to the pedal. It requires kind of like a peel off motion to get.
I guess it's the balancing act, right? Because if they made the magnet too weak, it's not going to do anything. But then maybe you're kind of teetering on that too strong, where you're not able to get out.
And you can change the height of the magnet relative to the plate in your shoe. So you can kind of change that, but there's a really narrow point where it like either doesn't engage or does. And so for me, it's like, you want it to engage is the whole point of having it there. And then when it is, it's a little like iffy. I kind of see the value of them for someone who's learned to mountain bike clipped in and wants to ride flats for some reason. I think they're actually like kind of a healthy middle ground between the two, because it has the sensation of clipping in. Like, you can kind of pull up on the bike with them if that you're like someone who doesn't know how to bunny hop, but at the same time, it's like approaching the flat pedal feel. So
do you think you'd be quicker, saying like a crash, like a big crash, would you be quicker getting out of the magnet pedals than clipless pedals?
Not me. I'm like used to clip pedals enough that I'm okay with it. And also like, it depends on what clips you're running. So for me, I'm on Crank Brothers, and those I feel like you can get out of super easily. Like, you kind of just smear and you're out, where like something with a harder release, a wider release, like Times, or like a Shimano cranked all the way down, I think, these are probably safer. I mean, ultimately too, it's like your foot can still get rattled off. Like, it's not fixed to the pedal. So like I had, this weekend, it was like pissing rain one day, and I rode a trail that has like a pretty sizable step down, and it was just wet enough that like my feet were, slick, and like I had a smear to the side kind of thing.
Oh,
so
like on the landing, that's the scariest.
Yeah, I like stuck to the pedal luckily, but like,
that's good.
You know, the weird thing with these is like lipless shoes aren't designed to run on flat pedals necessarily. So
right.
you're kind of, you have to optimize like what shoe you're running for the pedal. And I'm running like the best ones I can think of, but
yeah, what are you using, like a skate style shoe, kind of like a
yeah,
flat?
I'm using those Shimano GE9s, I think they are. Right. The like
so
new
bigger
Shimano
flat
Enduro.
Platform.
Yeah, they're like really wide, pretty soft, good rubber.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still like a spot where you just have a metal plate in the middle of the shoe. So yeah, they're interesting. It's not like I don't know. Sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but I can see the value for some.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm excited for your video. I want to see you like walking around a junkyard picking up rusty nails and stuff with your feet.
I almost wish that the magnet was in the shoe, just because it would be funny to interact with the world with that.
Yeah, just like clip and see what, like you walk by your fridge, your foot just sticks to your fridge.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the benefit of the pedals being magnetic is they're really easy to store. Like I have a metal locker in my basement, and I can just stick them on that. So.
And the cleat, what's the shape? I can't remember the shape of the cleat on the shoe.
It's just a rectangular.
Right. How's that driving? Like if you drive to the trailhead, does it feel weird? Are you just on a metal plate on your gas pedal?
It clicks a bit. The Honda Fit has like a narrow pedal, so it kind of clicks on that. But like otherwise, it feels normal because it's recessed in the shoe still.
Right. It doesn't stick out too much. Yeah. That makes sense. Cool.
You know, it's something out there. I think Jessie May has a set as well. So
yeah, we'll compare some notes.
And she's a like full-time flats rider. So I'll be curious to see how, because we're approaching it from like two different perspectives in that sense.
Cool. I like that people keep trying different things. I haven't tried them yet, but I don't think I'm convinced. But
you'd ridden magnetic pedals in the past though, right?
Tried the one, I think maybe it's the same company, but an earlier version. But yeah, but I've been either just flats or just clip. I haven't tried the middle ground. But
I will say they're like causing me to think weird thoughts about pedal stuff. Like I had the thought yesterday, because everyone pretty much has like a dedicated front foot. Like, why not run one clip, one flat? Like
that seems so scary. I don't know why. Like it should work, but
it does seem scary. It's like, I don't know.
I feel like one foot would just blow off somehow. I don't know what the...
Yeah. I mean, probably. I can't think of which foot rattles off more, like front or back, but maybe you could clip in the one that does and then have like free floating other.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
I think there's no performance gains.
No, I don't think so. I guess your weight, I mean, you'd think your front foot would get more weight on it, but then your back, that feels confusing. Yeah, that's a good deep ride thought. You're just like, what?
I was tired.
Yeah.
It penetrated the thought bubble. Yeah.
With that, maybe we should get in some questions. And
sure. Maybe someone has asked a specific question. We can give it a bit more meat.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to some reader questions. This is at the bottom of the podcast page. If you go there, you can click on it and you can send us a little voice memo. People have figured it out. But if you haven't, give it a try. I did get a message. Last week, there was a person that called in with a Newfoundland accent that I wasn't sure was real. But it was funny. But it turned out that was not real. But the guy was coming out of anesthesia for some tumor removal. Yeah. Whoa. Like he hit me up. He actually is moving from Newfoundland to Whistler. Seems like a nice guy. So I hope your recovery, you didn't, I don't know what he has, or I don't really want to go too deep into his medical stuff, but like sounds pretty gnarly. So hopefully you're doing great. And hopefully you get to go to Whistler and enjoy some bike park. But
seriously. Yeah. I love more anesthesia talk. Call us, mid surgery if you need to.
So that was where that one came from. But a little side note, throw back to last week. Yeah. For now, let's try this one. I think this is Bram. See what Bram has to say.
Hey, Pinkbike. I'm based in the Swiss Alps, and it may seem weird to ask for better trails, but ever since I visited Quebec, I can't get over how good those trails are. I like the uphill trails, the granite rock rolls, and just the overall gnarly but also flowy nature of them. I'm not a fan of pure bike park trails, so I'm looking for similar purpose-built natural bike trails in Europe. Already know Finale Ligure, and it's a top spot. Do you have any first suggestions? Thanks, guys.
So that would be like the Sentier des Moulins or whatever.
Yeah, stuff outside of Quebec City, which is amazing.
It looks sick.
Yeah, I'd almost recommend he come back over to North America and maybe check out Squamish. I think he would love that too. It's kind of like the Quebec feels a lot like Squamish's Alice Lakes. There's like really distinct similarities and differences. They both have their own flavor, but they're both super amazing zones to ride. But over in Europe, things that aren't
honestly,
bike park.
Go to Poland. Like the place where they had the Enduro this weekend. Those are sick purpose-built bike trails. Like really fun. It's not lift access, but the climbing is nice, and there's, all the luxuries of being in Europe. So you've got a chalet at the top. You get a little sandwich for €4, and I thought the riding there was sick.
I think Italy too. I mean, he mentioned he's been to Finale, but there's other little smaller towns in Italy that have little things are popping up. There's super fun riding in southern France too. Kind of like that rockier. The thing that makes Quebec stand out is those rock slabs, which I haven't ridden a ton of rock slab areas in Europe that feel like that. It's a really kind of different landscape. But another place that comes to mind is like Madeira. Like Madeira is so good. It's more dirt than rocks over there, but that's another one where the trails are built for mountain biking, and they're not bike park, but they are, kind of like perfect for mountain biking. So if you get a chance to go over there, Portugal has some really good riding too. Outside of like Sintra has some good trails, rocky stuff there. There's so much good riding in the world right now, but I think the nice thing is it's starting to grow. Yeah, it's starting to be, because traditionally we all, we're in North America, we kind of have the stereotype that Europe is just all really tight, strange switchbacks, which there still is a lot of that, but it's changed so much. And now you can go to these places and there are little trail centers and amazing trails that have been turned into mountain bike trails that work really well. So,
I mean, part of what I liked, I have a much more limited scope, but my couple times in Europe, like I like the funky hiking stuff, but then like spending time at the bike parks in France, it is like very much traditional bike park, big machine built, fast stuff. But there was a trail system out in the God, I'm forgetting the name of it right now. Outside of Lucca in Italy, where they have the bike connection event.
Like Massa
Marittima. Yeah, that was fun. Like quick laps, trail riding, not super bermed out bike park stuff. So options aplenty.
Just plan your vacation and let us know what you find. But that's I don't know where I would start if I was him, because he's in Switzerland looking for better trails, but there's some really good trails in Switzerland too.
For sure.
I don't know. There's so many good things. Like, no. But rocks, though, I'll try to think. I'll rack my brain. I might come up with a better answer, but it is a little bit hard to find things that match the rock that they have.
Go to, honestly, like, just watch through, like, video shreddits on Pinkbike and see if you find anything. Like, that's kind of what I'm thinking through is, like, what have I seen out of Europe that has that kind of terrain?
Yeah.
Totally. I do think, like, the building in that Bielsko-Biała area had, like, there were some free ridey trails to be found. Not rock work, but like woodwork and funky, jumps and drops and stuff like that. So pretty fun. I think like, if you look at the enduro coverage, you get kind of a glimpse into it, but there's more beyond those trails even. So, head east.
Yeah, Poland's on my list too. I do want to go there. It looks cool.
I liked it.
Yeah.
And the weather should be getting better.
Hopefully less snow, less chances of snow every day. We're getting there. Next up is Charlie. Let's see what Charlie's got to say.
What's the bummiest thing you've done in a bike shop? The other day I was at REI looking at some stuff and realized they had a bike shop there, and asked if I could give them like $5 or $10 for a shot of Fox 5-weight oil, because I don't feel like spending the money on a full jug if I only really need to service my shock like once, I don't know, not very often. And the guy laughed at me, but had a good sense of humor. And I came back from my car literally with an empty water cup from Taco Bell to put it in. And they were really cool. And I felt like a total fucking bum. They wouldn't take my money, but anybody else do shit like that? Or am I just deplorable? Thanks.
No, dog, I'll level with you. I did that like a month ago because Fox has the new 4-weight oil and I needed some of that for a fork build. And so I went to a shop in town and put it in a syringe, but like same exact energy I brought to the table.
Yeah, that's not uncommon. I've definitely encountered plenty of people like that. And if you have a good attitude with it, I think it's fine. You don't want to be always the guy that's coming in like, hey, can I bum a hit of chain lube? Like, that's not cool. But, once in a while, even grease and things, like occasionally if somebody came in and bought a bunch of bearings, we'd just give them a little, like a swab of grease in a baggie. And, it's a good shop will kind of be nice to you in that regard. But I don't know if bummy is the right word for this, but like you kind of know that it's not something that all shops are going to want to cater to every day. So if you just, pick your time to do it, it's fine for little things like that. And I think it'd be nice if shops had some sort of like, almost like when you go to the grocery store and they've got the bulk food aisle, you know, if you could get like some shops do refills
bulk
of chain
grease,
lube.
bulk lube. Yeah.
But if you get like a real refill of, you know, fork oil or chain lube or something, that'd be kind of cool. The chain lube thing does exist. Like I worked at a shop where we'd buy like a gallon of lube and you could refill for like half price or whatever, which I think that's a good way to do it. But
I'd
yeah, I don't know if
that.
Yeah, Charlie, you're just being scrappy. I think that's all right. I think it's
yeah.
I wouldn't want everybody in the world to be like that, but there's room for places like you. I like the guy with the Taco Bell cup that needs some fork oil. I got a soft spot in my heart for that, so
Same.
it's fine.
I have asked shops to dig through their garbage for tires, so
yeah.
I think that in the scheme of things, that's fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
I also like the shop I worked at. We would keep like roached tires. And like if someone needed something to just get them rolling, we would give them those. You know, I think that's a nice thing to do if you've got the room at a shop.
Yeah, and like part spins and stuff. Lots of good shops have part spins. We can kind of like pillage things. So they don't always need to sell you like a brand new derailleur. You know, like your pulley wheel cracks or something. They have one that's like pretty good shape and they can stick that on or things like that. Like good shops have the capability to keep things going rather than just toss it away, give you a new one. Yeah.
But yeah, Charlie, needless to say, my list is long here. I'm just going to omit too many of those stories because I don't want to get...
I'm sure you've got... Well, plus you did the Tour Divide, right? Like,
I mean, I actually like on that tour, I picked up because that's a long enough bike tour that your tires wear out completely. And so I got tires for free at a shop that out of the garbage, about, I don't know, 2,500 miles through. That was nice. And then like, I think a quarter of the way through that tour, I had a set of cranks that got totaled. Like just so much pedaling. There was an ISIS spline crank set, and like one of the bonded side just like worked off completely. And so I was banging it together with a rock every morning, and then I'd ride until it loosened off, and then I'd bang it back together. And so we got to a town, and so luckily a guy at the shop had the identical crank set that he was willing to sell me for like a case of beer. And, you know, that was a nice thing. So yeah, I mean, there's no shame in being bummy when you have to be. I think it's just like know where to apply that.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're rolling up in a brand new Rivian and then you're coming up and like scrapping for little things, like I don't really have time for that. But if, you know, you're trying to get by, trying to get into a sport that's very expensive and just kind of trying to save a couple pennies, like that's totally fine. But
yeah. And I think like people who work at shops who deal with customers all the time can kind of sense that. And so,
yeah, exactly. And like you were saying, a lot of times especially shops that are near places where people they're coming through like long tours or whether it's, you know, going across the country, north or south or whatever, they get kind of used to people coming in with certain needs that are different than other people might need. For sure. You know, they're like, hey, you have some sort of thing to strap all my stuff back onto my bike, or do you have a hose clamp and that kind of stuff? Yeah. So you're doing all right. Yeah. I think we'll just keep it 2 questions today. We'll go deeper on questions in the future, but we kind of chatted a while about World Cup and that type of thing. But yeah, next week we'll have some more new bikes to talk about. We've got some World Cup racing again to talk about. Maybe we'll see how Crank works. They've got that new event, like the bumps and jumps and moguls competition at Crankworks.
What is it?
It's that course that Remy Morton made. It's kind of like, it's like speed and style, but a new version of it that maybe is great, maybe is not. So we'll have some hot takes on that next week. We'll see
cross, but not for time.
I think it's 3 people. It's like three cross. Yeah. Okay, cool. And it's this thing. I don't know. I was confused. There was just like a hand-drawn drawing during the announcement of what it looked like. So I want to see what the course actually could be cool. Yeah. Could be horrible. We'll see. We'll know by next week, hopefully.
I'm going to the Bentonville Bike Fest this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a straight rhythm race. So I'm actually excited to see how that goes. I feel like that's been tried on a professional level, and it's like maybe not as visually interesting as people want, but
yeah, it could be cool. At least it's head to head. I kind of like that. Just like go and then that'll be another thing. Dario will report back.
I'll come back with a full report from the
good stories.
Global capital of mountain biking.
Exactly. World
capital.
Bike capital of the world. Yes. Yeah. Get it right. Cool. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. If you made it this far, you get a gold star, and hit us up with some questions. We'll be back again next week.
Peace.
That's it. Bye.